going on, guys? This is Joe Young coming at you with another video today. Since I'm kind of starting a new reef tank, I wanted to make basically a how-to video for the people who are thinking about starting the reef down the road eventually. I think everybody kind of goes into this phase. If you're ever keeping fish, especially with freshwater, you kind of probably want to dab into saltwater eventually. Alright, so this video is just going to be pretty much covering what you need to set up a reef. I guess this is going to be my method and how I'm going to do it. You can kind of see the builds, the material that you'll need, and basically you'll see how simple it is in terms of how to build it. Alright, so step one is probably the most important, and you hear this all the time, but it's true. Step one is you have to have a plan. So really, what are your goals for the tank? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to keep, crazy like SPS corals? Are you just trying to keep fish only? Are you trying to grow just mushrooms? Are you trying to breed, which I'm trying to do here? So kind of outline that, because the things that you'll need to buy for the setup will differ slightly, and it could end up saving you a little bit of money if you know what you want to do. All right, so number two, I think that this is kind of important, but people kind of overlook this sometimes because you kind of get caught up in the moment, is are you ready for the commitment? This is a hobby where you kind of have to be able to do the maintenance in order to keep your livestock, your fish, your corals alive. Because if you're gonna, set it up and be lazy and not do anything, you're gonna lose everything. It's gonna be a waste of money. It's gonna be a waste of your time, and it's not fair to the fish or the corals if you're gonna be doing that. The other thing to consider is, when I say are you ready, is do you have like way too many tanks where you're going to be spending like your whole Saturday or your whole Sunday just doing water changes? Are you going to be ready or committed to doing that? So if you have like way too many tanks, maybe consider taking one down. Maybe whatever, right? So you got to be kind of ready for this. All right. So now all that aside, let's get started. So first off, the important thing is your tank size. A lot of people tend to buy stuff that are cheap, and then down the road they upgrade. But if you think about it, you'll end up paying a little bit more because you'll have an extra piece of equipment that you don't want. And if you do end up selling it again, you're not getting the full price for it. So you're really paying a little bit more if you don't get the things that you want right away. So it's probably best to either save up and buy the tank that you want, the size that you want, and start that way. For this, it's a 33-gallon long, a tank that I've already had up top. It's a pretty decent size tank, but it's still considered a nano tank in the reef world. All right, the next part that you'll need for your setup is rocks. So basically, you're going to have a choice between live rock and dry rock. So you can definitely read up a little bit more on the benefits between both of them. In this setup, I'm going to be using dry rocks just because I don't want any pests or anything that can come from the live rocks that's going to be introduced in my tank, and it's just going to be a headache down the road. So I'm going to start it all clean. Again, you can read up on it. There's benefits with using live rock. There's benefits with using dry rocks. So definitely it's your choice. I just prefer using dry rocks. So the next thing to consider when you're buying rocks is how many rocks do you need in your tank. So really, this is up to you. The rule of thumb is about a pound per gallon. Again, this is a rule of thumb. You can definitely do more. You can definitely do less, depending on your filter. The main difference between saltwater and freshwater is your filtration. A majority of your filtration for reef or saltwater is going to be coming through your rocks. Once they become live rock, with all the organism and stuff that's in here, this is going to be your filter, along with, whatever you have. But the majority of it is this. Freshwater, obviously, it can, come from your substrate, come from your other parts, but a majority of that does come from your filter. So that's the main difference between having a freshwater and a reef tank. The next part you'll need is to determine if you want to do bare bottom, some sort of substrate, or whatever you want to do. This tank, I'm going to be using live sand. Live sand, again, has beneficial bacteria that'll help cycle the tank a little bit faster. And it's just a little bit more you know, pretty to look at versus just bare bottom. Again, there's benefits between using bare bottom if you're trying to keep SPS, trying to, you know, keep the tank a lot cleaner. That's another way to go. So again, this is totally up to you, bare bottom or some sort of substrate. For the sand, you can definitely use just play sand and, you know, start it that way. This one, I prefer using live sand. That way you just have beneficial bacteria and beneficial, you know, organism that's already in the sand, and it's, you know, it helps jumpstart your reef tank pretty much. The next part of your tank is going to be your filter. Again, a majority of that filtration is going to be coming through your live rock, but it's also good to have another filtration so that you can either put carbon, you know, a skimmer, something, you know, that can help basically help filter the tank as well. So in this build, I'm going to be using a sump. This is, you know, my first time using a sump. It helps add volume to the water for stability. And I'm going to be putting a refugium in the bottom here. So it's a little bit something new for me. I want to try it out, but you can definitely use hang on the back. You can use a wet and dry filter, a canister. But again, there's pros and cons for everything. Please read up on those if you want to consider using those. There's basically just a small modification you have to do if you want to consider using a canister or a hang on the back filter. All right, as you can see, I'm filling up the tank with RO/DI water. This is very important in reef tank, especially if you're going to be keeping any, I guess, corals. The TDS has to be basically 0 or close to 0. You can get, you know, your own unit to make your water. This is, you know, my own unit. It's, you know, pumping in water now, making water. The other way to getting, you know, RO/DI water, if you don't have one, is just going to your local pet store. You know, it's pretty cheap per gallon. But I do highly recommend getting your own unit so you can just make it on the fly, just in case of, you know, randomly at night that you needed water. You don't have to wait until the next morning or whatever. All right, so on to the fun part. The fun part is basically now being able to add in your substrate and scaping the tank the way you like it. So I'm going to start doing that right now. All right, so I added the sand. It's super cloudy. You know, I made a mess. You could have probably done it a little bit cleaner. But I'm still waiting on one more bag of sand to fill the other side. But I'm going to still continue this build just to kind of show you guys what it's going to look like. So this side doesn't really have sand, but this side will. You know, it's fine. I'm going to just basically put in like 1 piece of rock instead of like 3 pieces of rock, whatever. All right, so you kind of saw I placed in 2 pieces of rock. They're about 10 pounds each. I do have one more piece, but I need the other side to have sand to put it in. But technically, you can just throw it in there, stack them, and then, you know, whatever. But I can't really see right now, so I'll probably do it later. But pretty much, once this tank is full, you're just going to let this tank cycle, turn on your filter, and let it run. So right now, I can't really use the sump because the outlet is going to be way too big and it's going to suck up the fry fish that's going to go in here. So I'm going to be using basically a sponge filter. You know, you can just get them like anywhere. Use that for a little bit until fish are a little bit bigger, so I can actually start the sump. All right, so now once you have your rocks, your sand, your water kind of almost filled, it's time to add salt. This isn't enough, but I'm going to just basically dump this whole bag in there. This whole bag, if it was filled, would do 25 gallons. This is a 33 gallon, so it slightly needs a little bit more, so I have another bag. But pretty much you're going to dump this whole bag into that tank. All right, so pretty much follow the direction in terms of how much salt you want to add into the water when you're mixing it. You're going to be using a refractometer or a digital refractometer, whatever you want to use or whatever you have. Don't get the hydrometer, the one that's with a little I guess, arrow, and you put in the little thing, you have to dip it in there. It's useless. It's not accurate. Don't use it. It's a waste of time. Either get the refractometer or get one of these. It's super accurate, a little bit better, and it's worth your money. So, so my salinity came out to be 1.025. That's perfect. The range that you want to be in is 1.024 to 1.026. 1.026 is what, you know, natural ocean water salinity is at. This is actually perfect in terms of range for your fish and your corals. So we're perfect. We're good to go. If your salinity is too high, add in more water pretty much. If it's too low, add in more salt. It's simple as that. And you just kind of have to get the ratio and the mix kind of right. All right, so the cycle part. The cycle part, you don't have to really worry about it if you have live sand and you're using dry rock. If you kind of want to speed it up, you can throw in some, I guess, bacterial jump starter. I'm going to do that just to help jump it. But your live rock or your dry rock, when you toss it in there, there's going to be a lot of just debris, a lot of just dead matter that's going to be coming from that rock. That's going to help jump start your tank in terms of cycling. So pretty much what you're going to do is let the tank cycle. You know, wait until your ammonia, nitrites are pretty much, you know, zero, and, you know, do a water change, and then, you know, you can start adding stuff. The very first thing that you should add is a cleanup crew. Once your tank is cycled, that'll help with the algae that's going to probably bloom from this tank, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of just detritus, a lot of just dead matter in here initially from the dry rocks or from your live rocks. So just FYI there, start that. Initially, it's going to probably have a lot of just brown algae that grows in it. That's normal for a new tank. Just let it run for a couple weeks. You know, continue with your water changes normally, and it'll go away. But yeah, this is pretty much it. This is how you start up a reef. It's super easy. It's pretty much similar to a, you know, freshwater tank. Nothing too different other than adding salt. Hope you guys learned something. Again, I will probably start doing, you know, weekly or maybe monthly updates as the tank starts to cycle, and I'll give you more updates on how to do it. But this is really just a quick how-to video. There's nothing special about this, but yeah, let me know what you guys think, and peace, guys.